We'll be recording this meeting. And so I want to thank you and welcome everyone to the 7th annual Non-Engineering Careers in Tech panel discussion hiring event. My name is Marco Lindsey, and I'm your host and moderator for this conversation. I'm a board member for the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area. Our organization is a volunteer organization that's a part of the 100 Black Men of America. This year, our chapter alone will be giving out over $150,000 in scholarships for our youth to go to college. We've been hosting these type of hiring events for 7 years now, and we're happy that so many attendees are landing jobs in tech. So we want to keep that momentum going. And we are partnered with the San Francisco chapter of the National Black MBA Association, and my esteemed colleague and chapter president, Maisha Robinson, will be handling an AV and managing all the logistics for this call. Thank you in advance, Maisha. In a moment, I'm going to introduce our panelists. Then I'll ask them a set of preset questions. At about the 40-minute mark or so, we'll begin to pull from the questions that you put in the chat box. And so I'm going to encourage you to use that chat box to put your questions in. Then at the hour, those that have to leave can do so. But for those who want to stay, we'll go in a breakout room so that you can network and speak to the representatives from the respective companies. Company reps, if you're here with an organization, please make sure that your screen name shows which organization you're a part of. And we encourage you to answer questions in the chat box from career seekers that you see. Career seekers, if you're looking for a role, I encourage you to put your LinkedIn profiles in the chat box and connect with one another, as well as our speakers and representatives that'll be on the call. As a reminder, please keep your audio muted throughout the duration of this conversation. And with that, we'll begin, and I'll begin to introduce our esteemed panelists. And so, throughout his career, Dion Bullock has been driven by a single question: how can we leverage the power of people and organizations to advance social justice? Currently, Dion is exploring that question at Chime as a senior manager for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Dion partners with teams in this role to embed DIB into Chime's learning and development, employee resource group, procurement, and employee experience strategies. Before Chime, Dion led DIB employee experience, strategic planning, coaching, procurement, and operations initiatives across the nonprofit, government, tech, and corporate sectors in New York City. Dion is passionate about making life better at work for marginalized communities. Outside of work, you can find him catching up on the newest dating marriage reality show, exploring different brunch specials throughout Chicago, or planning his next international solo trip. Welcome, Dion.
Thank you, Marco. Happy to be here.
So glad to have you. Our next panelist is Torrey Hobbs. Torrey Hobbs has more than 15 years of award-winning strategic sales experience. He has spent over 11 of those years in the medical device industry in the Northeast. Before joining Invitae in 2020, he most recently served as an account executive for Canon Medical Systems USA. From 2012 to 2017, he served as a senior territory manager for Boston Scientific Endoscopy. In his earlier career, he worked in a variety of sales capacities at both Medtronic and Navalis Medical. Along with being a devoted husband to his wife, Karen, and their two boys, Noah, 16, and Emerson, 4, Torrey enjoys spending his time with his family, friends, and furry companion, Millie, a 10-year-old lab rescue. In his spare time, he enjoys playing golf and working out. Welcome, Torrey.
Thank you, Marco. Appreciate it.
And so I like to start these off so that way we can make sure that everyone understands how you got to where you are. So tell us, and we'll start with you, Torrey. How did you get into tech?
Yeah, so it was sort of by accident, if you will, right? So I started off, decided to go to college, and throughout my summers at college, I got affiliated with an organization called En-ROADS. So they start, doing different interns for me. And first, I started in the finance industry. Like, okay, I think I want to become a, financial advisor or broker, something along those lines. Fast forward to graduating college, I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. So I started working for a company called Cintas as a sales associate, selling mats, mops, bar towels, uniforms, and all that stuff. And it was a grind, right? So I just started grinding. And it was like, you know what? I'm making decent money, but not the money I want to make. I really want to get into med tech, something along those lines, because that's where the money's at, right? So, just was did due diligence really before LinkedIn was even invented, right? So I'm just, talking to headhunters, trying to network, figure out who's working for who has an opportunity. And then that's when I finally broke into the med tech sector.
Got it. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's a path. Dion?
Yeah, Torrey, you said accidentally, and that was the same word that I used. So when I think about my entire journey, most of my career has been within the government slash nonprofit space, specifically around public education within New York City. So when I went to college out in the Midwest in Kalamazoo, Michigan, I'd learned and had thought that if you want to change the world, if you want to make a difference, you got to go into the public sector. Public sector good, for-profit sector, or corporate sector bad, essentially. And I learned very quickly that there's just a lot of gray area where there are a lot of tech and corporate companies who are trying to create good and create change within the world. And there are also a lot of agencies and a lot of nonprofits that are not trying to make as great of a difference as you would want, right? So I had spent my time within government, specifically focusing on operations, recruitment, all things people and operations within the agency. And at that time, a colleague of mine reached out saying, hey, have you ever heard of this company called Bravely, which is an HR tech company that is focused on expanding access to coaching for employees at the workplace? I said, no, I'd never heard of that. And she was able to introduce me to them so that I could become a part-time coach with them. And I started with them in 2018 as a part-time coach. And as I was participating in this particular role, I was starting to meet people from all these different corporations and startups, where I was starting to learn that people are people and the problems that they experience translate throughout sectors, right? So at that time, as I started to get to know the company a bit more, and as we moved into 2020, into the pandemic, we had a lot more conversations around race and racism coming up. And Bravely was bringing together its Black coaches to then talk about, how do you talk to your employees about race at work? And because I had been leading DEI and anti-racism work in government, it was an opportunity for me to shine and help lead some of these conversations. And as we were having some of these more public conversations, we had Bravely's clients coming back saying, hey, we want you to lead this work inside of our company. Do you have someone who can help lead that? And at the time, Bravely didn't have anyone in-house. So it was an opportunity for me to pivot and pitch to say, hey, look, y'all have this need. I have the skill set. I know the company. Let's make it happen. So I was able to transition into tech that way and have been trying to find the best space within tech where I can figure out how I can make a difference and also be a part of an organization that is the appropriate size, because I think that's also important when you're thinking about your transition.
Got it. I love it. And I think that, both of your stories really show that there is no traditional way that you get into tech. People come in from, all different backgrounds, accidentally, intentionally. It just happens. And we're glad to have you there. One of the impetus behind this entire discussion is the fact that, a lot of people of color, when they were hearing about tech, and, when we first started this 7 years ago, you hear these big tech companies and you think coding. Like, a lot of people just think coding, not realizing that there are tons of roles in organizations that don't involve coding that people may be qualified for already. And so my question to you, and we'll start with you, Dion, is, what roles are open or available in your organization that don't involve coding?
Sure. So just like any other company, tech companies have business functions that help keep the lights on. So yes, we have a product that needs to be able to get designed and to be engineered, but we also need that product to be marketed. We also need to make sure we have the money inside of our company to be able to, sell that product and make sure that we're running our company effectively. We need people to then build that product. So we need our people team to help bring them in. So there are a lot of different business functions that exist, especially when you start to think about financial technology. So in our organization, there are countless positions within our marketing, our risk team, our operations and member experience teams, our people teams. So we have our recruiters here. If you're interested in having that conversation about specific functions and roles, but for the most part, tech companies, just like any other company, requires business functions to be able to exist.
Yeah, no, and piggybacking off of what Dion said, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, not only the tech part of companies, like Chime and Invitae, specifically Invitae. I mean, that's sort of my role. I'm in the tech industry, but not necessarily tech. I sell the solution to help patient and doctors change their treatment algorithm, right, for rare disease. So I'm a component of that feel good, do good, and I have a staff behind the scenes that support me, so other roles that help support that sales function is, a variety of engineers. We have different type of clinicians, genetic counselors. We have a marketing team. We have a training team. Again, all those different areas, again, tech company, but not tech specific. So there's a lot of different avenues you can go in when researching tech companies and still be in that tech world per se.
Got it. Thank you for that. Thank you. Here's a follow-up question to that. Because we have folks on this call that they're here because they want a job. And what can they do to make themselves stand out when they're applying for a role? And, I know, realize that, now you may be in HR, but, for your organization, what have you seen has been successful for them? Because, people are here because they want to work with you all.
Yeah, and I can take this one first and then pass it over to Dion. I think the biggest thing, with any organization, specifically with, my current organization at Invitae, is we're big on knowing your why, right? So, we're taking it away from the traditional, I have this skill set, I can do this, this, and this. Well, this is why you should hire me, to just saying, this is my why. This is why I'm here. It could be, a family member with a past history of cancer. You want to change that. It's you want to change the cardiac disease and for myopathies and arrhythmias within the minority community. Whatever your why is, be open about your why. Be boastful about your why. Right. I think that's huge. Another thing I think is really understanding and having a sense of what I consider like your intellectual humility, right? So when you are researching these companies and having these conversations or interviewing, it's okay not to have an answer, right? That's where you have to step up and step out of the comfort zone and say, yeah, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't heard of that. Tell me more, help me understand. Because a lot of people feel as if when you're in that interview or if you're researching, you have to have the answers. It's okay. You're not hired by them. You don't know them, right? So those are probably a couple nuggets that I would sort of, relate to sort of help throughout that.
Yes, I 100% echo that. So the know your why, and specifically within Chime, I would say we are very mission driven. Like every company is mission driven, but for Chime, it's something that rings true within the organization, in which we're trying to provide financial peace of mind for everyday people, right? And where we're trying to make sure that we are providing inclusive financial products for people who traditionally have not had that kind of access, right? And we've built a company based on some of the exploitation that has happened within our financial services industry, right? When you start thinking about the issues with overdraft fees and all of the challenges that come with that hit me hard because I've had that experience. My first bank account was with one of the major banks, and they came to my college campus and signed me up. I didn't really know what was going on with it, but I had to deal with all those overdraft fees. So when I come to see Chime, and see the work that Chime is doing, I wanted to be a part of that. And I know a lot of people come with similar stories when they join the organization. I'll also say values alignment. Again, it feels like every company is focused on this, but we see that in action, and I've seen that in action even through our recruitment process, right? So when I was going through the process, I accidentally scheduled my interview on my side on the wrong day, right? I had it booked on the wrong day on my side. And it was the final interview too. So I had the final interview conversation scheduled on the wrong day on my end, on the back end. And, I was so apologetic. Like, oh my God, I thought it was just over. And they were like, look, it's the pandemic. We understand, schedules happen. Let's just reschedule it and let's make this work. Right. And one of our values at Chime is be human. And that I saw being human in action. And it really made me feel like, okay, they truly do believe the values and they live the values that they say. So making sure that you have a sense of alignment in terms of the values and what the company is focused on, knowing your why, and being specific when it comes to that why. So when I've worked with others, when they've been on the job search, I had a formula where I said, you have to understand why you, so like why you as this candidate, why this specific company and role, and then why you two together. So if you're able to articulate why this is the right move for you, why this company is the right place for you, and why you the right fit for this company, I think that is, you're going to be able to answer any question that you need to because you're super clear in terms of what you need.
Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty deep. I could imagine losing my stuff if I got the wrong date. So it's good that you're an organization that's understanding, because I'd probably be going ballistic. But you're probably a lot more calm-headed than me. So here's another question. We're talking about non-engineering careers in tech, and there are a lot of folks on this call who aren't in the tech sector and want to get in, right? But let's just say they're, I don't know, a librarian, a warehouse worker, or an admin assistant, or whatever the case may be. How do you suggest they transfer those skills or relate those skills, or how do they, cross over from, I don't know, a mom and pop, whatever, to the tech sector? Do you have any ideas on that?
I can start us off and then kick it to you, Torrey. I'll say to try to find the analogous spaces or roles within the tech sector. So essentially, when you start thinking about the work that you do, so one of the examples you mentioned, like being a college counselor, there are ed tech organizations. So are there education technology organizations that need college counselors? So then if you could find that one-to-one transition, that'll be easier to then make that. So for, when you start thinking about tech, it's really about what the specific mission they have and how do they use technology to enable that mission. So a lot of the things that you see that are quote unquote analog, you see that translated over within the tech space. So I again say, if there's something that you can find that is analogous in the tech space. So if you're in the education space, check out ed tech. If you're in the finance space, check out finance or fintech, right? Like if you're in the medical space, check out med tech, right? There's a tech for almost everything at this particular point. So I would say if you can find that translation, it'll be much easier for you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think you really have to look at, depending on what you're currently doing, what skills are transferable, right? So Dion, throw a career out there for me. Just anything. Manager, grocery man. I mean, you throw something out. Yeah.
Let's say journalist.
All right. So a journalist, right? So, I mean, if you're trying to transfer those skills over to, get an entry-level job or whatever job into the tech industry, I mean, when you're a journalist, you're very, very well written, probably well spoken, probably your attention to detail and research is obvious, right? So then you start looking at, okay, so if I'm very well written. I can communicate well, right? Maybe it's marketing, I'm an excellent communicator. I use words well. I know how to place things that I say and how to say them. So I think really want to look at the transferable skills. And the best example I can give is I worked with a colleague here at Invitae who has since left. I mean, great guy. He was a trainer, had a passion for video games, really liked sort of that med tech role. And he landed a job in sales for a gaming company that's helping surgeons that do robotic surgery through playing video games. So they have that tactile and dexterity, So it's almost like if you have a passion and you understand where your skills are transferable to help you accomplish that end goal, you can do it, you can do it, but you can't sell yourself short and get intimidated that you're entering a new industry. You have to understand that, yes, I'm well written. I do a lot of research. I'm well spoken. This can translate into Marcom. This can translate to sales within the tech industry. And if you do that, I think you'll knock it out of the park.
You guys are good. I'm taking notes. I don't know. I hope y'all taking notes too, because this is some good stuff. This is some real good stuff, and I'm not even looking for a job. So I hope that y'all taking notes, because this can be really helpful. Here's another question, right? And I want to make sure that people understand the power of networking and the importance of networking, right? And the world is crazy. It's probably a little less crazier, but we got monkey stuff, we got COVID, we got blah blah blah, and it's not everyone is ready to go and network right in public. And some people need events like this. But how important is it to know someone within an organization, right? That you're applying to? Is that important at all? And if it is, if that can be helpful, what's the best ways to go about doing that?
So I'll kick us off here, and I'll just relate it back to my most recent opportunity at Invitae, right? So wanted to get in the lab, diagnostic cells, looked at some companies, started the process a little bit, and then the interview process starts, and it's like, okay, you have two options once that starts. You can just say, okay, I'm going to interview like a traditional interview list, and just they ask me questions, I answer, I wait for the call back, right? That's option one. Option two is utilize some of the resources that are available, i.e. LinkedIn, which is phenomenal, right? Utilize that, leverage that to say, okay, I'm interviewing for this role, but this role probably touches client support. So I want to know what goes on from a client perspective. From a clinical support perspective, like a clinical science liaison, I kind of want to understand what their day-to-day is like, and what individuals that are currently in the role that I'm after are close to me that I can connect to either in person or, with COVID via Zoom, right? With COVID now we're all Zoomers and WebExers, right? Where can I connect and ask everyone different set of questions, and some of them the same, so I can get one to fill for, like Dion said, why do I want to work for them, right? And then how does my skills transfer over to the current company? So that's what I did at Invitae, right? Started with a recruiter, start researching, all right, who in the New York area, has this territory or had the region for cardio-neurology, pediatric, who has it for women's health, oncology, all right, and the PA area, who's there. Let me go on the West Coast and talk to someone just to see if it's, sort of a dichotomy or a difference from East Coast to West Coast. Let me talk to someone in the South. So, and all that can be done as easy as just logging on to LinkedIn, searching the company, looking to see what positions are open, looking to see who's in what role. And the last thing I would say, and I'll pass it to Dion, is I think it's even more important to network, not because you need something, but to network, because you never know when, when you can help someone and when someone can help you, right? And I think I get more, internal happiness when I can help someone or place someone with the right person. And then I get that LinkedIn message or that text, hey, thank you so much for helping me prep for that interview for this company. I got the job, and no monetary is needed. Good bottle of wine may help, but no monetary is needed, right? But yeah, so I mean, LinkedIn, and even network when you're not supposed to be networking, meaning when you're looking for a job. Of course, everyone wants to network, but when you're not looking for a job, network even harder.
Yeah, so my career has been that exact line in terms of network, just in case. You never know when you'll need it. And I actually got to Chime through networking. So when I first joined tech, when I was in HR tech, I came from government. So again, I'm like, what is this space? I have no clue what is going on here. And I have to basically learn this on the fly. So there are two programs that I joined just from LinkedIn searching and Google searching, typing in Black Tech Mentorship, right? So I found one program, which I know a lot of folks at Chime either have participated in or mentored in, which is through First Round Capital, which is a venture capital firm. They do a mentorship program for about 3 months called Fast Track Mentoring. And at that time, they had just opened it up specifically for Black and Latinx folks who were in the tech industry, but weren't necessarily a part of their portfolio companies. So I said, I'm in, I gotta join this, and was able to get paired with a mentor who was at Amazon for the first round, and then said, okay, this was great. I want to go through this again because I feel like I want to shift what I'm focusing on. And I got paired with someone at Chime. And when I was talking to him, we were talking about me transitioning to another job. So it wasn't even to Chime, it was to a completely different company. And because of the relationship we were able to build, he helped guide me to make a decision to make that move to a different company. But then I was also able to hit him up like, look, this new company isn't working. Like, what are your thoughts? How do you then approach this? And he said, have you ever thought about Chime? And I said, I mean, you seem to be having a great time there. Like, I'll take a look. I don't know if there's anything that's going to fit on the fit my skill set, but yeah, there was a role that opened up on their diversity team maybe a month later, and I was able to work with him and connect with the team to be able to go through the process and join. So again, I had no plan of leveraging this person at Chime to then get a job at Chime. It was more so, how do I make sure that I'm building my operational skills, and how do I build my implementation skills? That was what we originally connected for. But because we were able to stay in touch, I then was able to leverage him as a referral to join in the organization. And to Billy's question, no, these programs were free. So Fast Track, you just have to apply. And then the second mentorship program that I was a part of was called Black and Corporate Mentorship, which they bring together a small group of Black folks to just talk about their experiences within the corporate and tech spaces. And I was able to get connected to a mentor at Instagram, right? So again, these are free programs that are out there. And as long as you're asking the questions and seeking out programs, because look, I'll be honest, when you start talking about diversity recruitment, everyone's trying to hire for Black and Latinx talent. Every company is trying to hire for Black and Latinx talent. So if you are able to look into, what are the different mentorship programs out there, just literally a Google search or a LinkedIn search saying mentorship programs, tech, and then Black or whatever identity you hold, you'll be able to find something that's out there. So I'll just say use that to your advantage.
Very helpful, very helpful. Something we often hear, and you've both spoken on it a bit, is, research the companies, right? And, for someone, on the outside looking in, that can be kind of vague. What, if someone is to research a company that they're interested in, what should they be looking for? Is it the mission statement? Is it the CEO? Is it the DIB? What are some thoughts that you all have on that?
Yeah, for me, I think you kind of do it twofold, right? So, I mean, you start off Yahoo Finance, right? Just look at, if they are publicly traded, right? You want a good fill of, are they stable? What's going on? What has it looked like quarter over quarter? Who are some of the competitors, right? I mean, that you could do that easily on Yahoo Finance if it's publicly traded. If it's a private company, you do the same thing, right? Just look up their products. Look up some press releases. I mean, what's going on? What's new? And then I'm going to go right back to LinkedIn. As you do that, that gives you things to talk about when you reach out to the network within that company, right? So you're just not, hi, my name is Torrey. I'm interviewing for this job. What can you tell me about it? It's more so, hi, my name is Torrey. Noticed a couple of new initiatives you guys got going on within this sector. We'll love to learn more about it. When does your schedule accommodate time for us to talk? Does, early part of the week or later part of the week work best? Something like that, right? So utilize and leverage the research that you're doing to make that network connection, right? And then also, you're doing a research too to see if you really want to work for that company, right? So you have to do your due diligence, because if you find something out that maybe is a little iffy, or if it's not a good, social value fit for you, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time unless you want interview experience. You need that, right? Then you're not wasting your time. You're interviewing an interview, knowing that it's not a good fit, but you still want to sort of get that baseline, get that level of confidence up. So when you do interview for the job that you really want, you can go after it.
Yes. And I would add, in terms of research in the company, LinkedIn, of course, I think there's even more that you can do on company pages with LinkedIn. So depending on the function that you want to join, at a department that you want to join, just go and see who's in that department within the company and see what their backgrounds are, where they went to school, what were their trajectories, to get a sense of who you would be working with. That's one. Two, often companies have some information on their About Us page. I know, and shout out to Sam, she's on the call. We do a lot of work around our employer brand to talk about what life at Chime is like. So we have a blog that then we're able to share about Chime experience. So making sure that you're reading anything that is out there publicly about the company experience. Another thing I would say is to check Crunchbase, especially for like startups and companies who are not yet public, to understand what stage are they at as a company, because there are certain indicators that may let you know if you want to join a very early startup. If you're thinking pre-seed funding, seed funding, Series A financing, and you want to join early, you want to look for that. But you also, as you're thinking about what round of funding and financing they have, to think about what level of risk you're willing to take to join that company. And then the last thing I'll share is, if you just type in company name and then layoffs, with the way that the tech industry is going right now, there have been a lot of layoffs going on within just the macroeconomic environment. So that's an important thing to check for, so that you do not get yourself in a predicament where you're joining a company and they then have to do layoffs very soon after you joining. So just get that checked to see if companies have done layoffs and what that experience has been like, since there are a lot of people on LinkedIn who have been sharing their experiences around layoffs. And then also Glassdoor and Blind, any employer review sites, definitely check those out to see what employees are saying. And of course, those are going to skew negative, just because if you are taking the time to write a review about your employer, it's often going to be about the things that you dislike versus the things that you love. That's just human nature. But at the same time, it'll give you some flavor of what the experience is like within the organization.
And the only other big nugget that I would add, and is coming off of what Dion said and sort of just rang in my head, is when you're doing that research and talking to all these other people, right? Try to talk to the end user, right? So for example, in medtech, right? Find out, who uses that product from a clinical standpoint. That's the best example I can give, right? So, If it's University of Rochester Medical Genetics, try to get a hold. You can go on their website. They normally have a genetic counselor or some sort of link that you can find an email. Reach out to them. See, what do you like about them? What are some challenges that you face? If you made some recommendations, how can they improve? And then if you do decide that this is a company or a position that you really want to go after, that gives you even more leverage in an interview. Hey, Marco, you know what? I spoke to Dion in the genetics department at U of R, raved about you guys. What are some of the challenges that you think you face that he may have mentioned? Again, you're just opening up this conversation, and you're almost not switching the interview, but you're showing that you did a lot of due diligence, right? You understand your why Chime, why Invitae, and it's almost given that interview another reason to say, wow, I kind of really like this person because they went above and beyond, and you're going to make yourself stand out.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll add, if you're at a company or if you're looking at companies like Chime that are business to consumer, and if you could afford it, become a customer, see what that experience is like. I signed up for a Chime card during the interviewing process just to see what their member experience is like. And to see, if it was just all smoke and mirrors in terms of the marketing, like I want to see what the product experience is like. And that seemed to be a strong experience as well.
Got it. Thank you both. I'm going to ask another question, but I want you folks to start putting your questions in the chat. We're going to open it up to the audience. So if you have something that you want to ask either our panelists, put it in the chat now. And so we're talking a lot about, hiring, right? And we're talking about, what, and, it was said that, just, maybe Black Latinx people are, they're hot, people want to hire them. What's been done at your respective organizations to improve or increase diversity in hiring, if anything?
All right, Courtney, you're on the call. Not kidding. So there are, I'll start there since I'm in the DEB space. So there are a couple of things I would say. You have to look through the entire employee life cycle in order to solve for the specific challenges around diversity hiring. So I'll say first, we are making sure that we are partnering with folks like you all, right, to go to these types of events and making sure that we're getting Chime's name out there. We're connecting with different communities and making sure that they understand the value of Chime and what it means to be a part of our organization. Then I'll also say we have been focusing on our data analytics when it comes to our recruitment aspects, because we want to make sure that we're sourcing folks, but we also have to make sure that they get through the process. So we have to understand exactly, based on our recruitment funnel, if we are seeing that we're bringing in a lot of candidates inside the pipeline, but they may not be making it through, where are they dropping out at? And let's figure out how do we work with hiring managers and our talent team to then address that. So we're also focusing on training for our hiring managers to address bias within the hiring process. So when you're thinking about filling out your applicant tracking system scorecards around applicants or around candidates, how are you making sure that your answers aren't necessarily biased from you, and that you're actually giving a more holistic and more objective view of the candidate, right? And then lastly, once they're inside of the organization, so they've been sourced, they've made it through the pipeline, once they get inside of the organization, we're also making sure that we're investing in our employee resource groups, that we are making sure that we're creating communities for underrepresented folks to then feel like they belong, right? So I would say it's a bit multi-pronged. We're focusing on sourcing, we're focusing on the recruitment funnel, and we're also making sure we're focused on the experience.
Perfect. Yeah. And again, I mean, I'm in a sales capacity, so really no HR component here, but what I can say is a couple things, right? In correlation to my career, right? My career in tech, my career in sales. This is the most diverse I've seen it, especially med tech. So DE&I is huge, right? And specifically at Invitae, I mean, it's extremely diverse, right? So, I mean, I see a lot of diverse hires, diverse backgrounds. which is comforting, right? Which is comforting being a, minority Black man. It's nice to see people like you, doing a similar job as you, or even if it's a different role, it's just nice to be around that, because when I started off my career, I was not. But again, at Invitae, I know we have our, our employee resource groups for all the minority represented, areas, but yeah, I'm not in HR, so specifically, I don't know all that detail.
I can help you out, Torrey. Hi,
Awesome.
folks. It's nice to see all these beautiful folks and names on here. My name is Rayshonda Madison, but I let my friends call me Shonda. And I have the privilege and the honor of leading diversity, equity, and inclusion at Invitae. And so we're a genetic information company. And so how we're connecting with Black and Brown communities is through things like health equity, with our clinical operations. Similar to Dion, we're also focusing on recruiting, our metrics, making sure there's good hygiene there so we can tell those stories internally, but also connecting with more community organizers similar to Marco, other partnerships across the Bay Area and other states. So yeah, and also double downing on our resources for our employee resource groups. And so we have a strong employee resource group internally called Black Genetics. So yeah.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you both. Here's a quick question. And I see, I think some, we got some questions in there. I think some of our recruiters on the call can probably answer these, respond to these. But do you have to finish college to go into tech? You're muted.
No, I know. I was just emoting to that question. I would say no, but at the same time, I do not want to pretend like prestige bias does not exist within the tech space, right? So I do want to make sure that I'm clear on that there are.
What's prestige bias?
I was just about to explain it for y'all. So when you think about prestige bias, there is the assumption that because a person has been able to make it into a certain company or a certain college or a certain grad school, that because they have been in that space, that they are either smarter, harder workers, just better in general. And we tend to, or not we as Chime, but just in general, tech companies tend to focus on sourcing from those specific spaces. So for example, you may see on LinkedIn, a lot of people have like X Amazon, X Google, X Facebook or Meta, right? These are signals to different companies that I've been in this space, I've been able to thrive in this particular space, therefore I am of a certain caliber. At the same time, there's a lot of work to be done within the tech industry, but I'll say again, if you go back to our points earlier around understanding your why, doing the research, making sure that you are super clear in terms of your cover letter, in terms of like what your experience is and how you're going to make an impact within the organization, I believe, yes, you would be able to make that transition. And I know there are roles within Chime that don't necessarily require a four-year degree.
Yep, and at Invitae too. I mean, I would just say really hone in on those transferable skills, right? Because a lot of times you'll see, bachelor's degree and or equivalent work experience, right? So you see that in equivalent work experience, as long as you can communicate that and really understand how your skills in your current role or previous role transfer over into your new role or desired role, I think you can, connect the dots. So if it says, bachelor or equivalent 6 years experience, you have transferable skills, sell them on it. Sell them how those skills transfer over to the equivalent of an associate's or bachelor's or the experience that they're looking for.
Thank you. Here's another question. We'll make this a throwback question.
Well, before you jump in, Marco, I see Maisha has her hand up.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you both because you know I'm National Black MBA, so you know I'm about education. So definitely going to challenge you both. So all good, totally understand transferable skills, been in the space. So if you are trying to get into managerial roles, director roles, executive roles, where does that play in for education?
That's a great question. I mean, it depends on how much true experience you have, right? And I like the idea of like really telling your story, and your resume is only one part, right? So your resume and cover letter is to get you that interview, right? So if you get that interview for that director role or managerial role, now you have to sell yourself, right? You have to communicate those skills eloquently. You have to maybe even dig deep and like understand, your personality type, right? Do an Enneagram, do a Myers-Briggs. So when you go in to sell yourself and communicate with whomever you're interviewing with, they're gonna, the last thing they're gonna think about is like, wow, he doesn't have an MBA, or she doesn't have an MBA, or she doesn't have a higher level of a degree, but they have this equivalent work experience that they were eloquent with, that they walked me through. And I understand if you're doing all this, you're more than qualified. So, I mean, that would be kind of my pushback. And sometimes, in some cases, depending on the company and their profile, experience means a lot,
Yeah, I'm just gonna echo what Torrey said. I don't want to add too much there, but I do believe that if you're able to, again, tell that story and understand your why, that will be helpful. And once you get into the organization, being able to build those skill sets, build your network, all the skills that we've been talking about here today, you could apply those same types of skills once you're inside of the organization as you're thinking about your way up within the career ladder.
Thank you, Maisha, and thank you for catching that, team. Just a reminder, they're giving us some nuggets, right? Some real helpful and useful piece of information. And I hope that, we're not just letting it go one and out the other. Use this. I mean, we've seen people come on these calls and listen to the speakers and land the role. We even had people come on the call, listen to the speakers, land the role, then come back as a speaker, right? And so the opportunity is there. And they're here because they want to be here. They got a ton of recruiters and folks from the organization because they want to help. They want to help you land a role. And so leverage that. And if you haven't, reach out to these folks that are on this call. If they have the company name next to them, that means they're here because they're looking to hire folks. Reach out, make those connections. I just want to reiterate, it's extremely important because you won't have access to the likes of these folks all the time. And so take advantage. And so here's my next question. What is something that you wish you had known when you first got into tech that you know now?
I would say that, and I mean, I'll shoot from the hip that it's okay to be yourself, I mean, it's okay to be you, be authentically you. And I think, when I look at it, when I first got into tech, it was 07-ish, like true kind of med tech. And it was cookie cutter, right? I mean, it was, you should wear a dark color suit, a white shirt, and a tie. I mean, that's how cookie cutter it was. And you had to be clean shaven, right? I mean, that's what it was, Now I've seen it change, but because where we're at in society, I mean, be authentically you, and people are going to appreciate it. They're going to gravitate towards it, and you're going to have more authentic relationships throughout the interview process, throughout your time, within the organization that you choose. But do not be afraid to be authentically you. And I wish I'd known that, back in 06, 07, 08.
Sorry, I got pinged away real quick. Can you share the question for me? Apologies.
Certainly. What is something that you wish you had known when you first got into tech that you don't know?
Recognizing the importance of just knowing what type of environment you want to be in. So I mentioned it earlier in terms of understanding what stage of the company that you're joining. I think that's just very, 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 very important. Because when you start thinking about the types of roles that you will have within that organization, when you start thinking about how you like to communicate, how you like to work together with people, how you think about career progression, right? That's all going to be defined by the stage and size of the company. So if you are joining a, early stage startup, a lot of the work that you're going to be doing is very general. You're going to be a generalist in that specific space and wear a lot of hats. Whereas if you're moving along into a more mature company, you're going to have a more specialized role in certain places to be able to branch out and figure out where you want to go within that space, where it's going to have a bit more structure, but it's going to be less fluid, right? So if you feel like you want to be in a space where you are building from scratch, you're hands-on with everything, I would say join an early stage. If you're looking for things to be more clearly defined and structured, you can join a corporate space. If you're looking for a blend of the two, you can find that middle ground where you're looking for companies that have either like a Series B or Series C all the way up to Series E funding, right? But it really does depend, at least from my experience in tech, in terms of what type of organization you're looking to join and what type of experience you're looking to have, because that will really define what you go through within that company.
Thank you. In a moment, I see a lot of questions coming up about specific organization and open roles. In a moment, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and everyone have an opportunity to have some conversation with the recruiters, with Dion and Torrey about, maybe your specific situation of what's going on inside of Invitae, what's going on inside of Chime open roles. And so we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to do that. And so that'll happen. But one last question. What are some parting words that you have for these folks that are on the job hunt? Some of them are seasoned, some of them are in college, some, fresh out, some are trying to find their way, some are trying to pivot. What's some just words of advice that you can give to our career seekers to help them on their journey?
Yeah. So, for me, I think know your why. I'm glad that, sort of Dion, and I both agree there. And that's a great thing to know. Secondly, a brag book, when you do land that interview, right? Prepare, over prepare, and make sure you have like a brag book or a leave behind, right? You work off your brag book, you do a leave behind when you're in front of that, that hiring manager, be able to confidently walk them through that. And then three is really think about how you can set yourself apart from the competition, right? So yeah, you have the brag book. Yes, you can, communicate well and you're walking them through your why, but even go as far as, take one of the free, the personality tests, right? The Enneagrams, they're all over there and you have that in front of you, right? So like, even to this day, I know I'm, challenger, the enthusiast, the helper, and an advisor, right? I know that. And, do it maybe every other year because as things happen in our lives, our personalities change, but understand who you are, what you bring to the table, make sure you have a leave behind, make sure you have a brag book, and always be authentically who you are. And people are going to like that and gravitate towards you and hopefully hire you and you land the role that you want.
Thank you, Torrey.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I'll say you only need one. So you only need one yes in terms of the opportunity that you take on, right? And of course, you want to strive for multiple offers so you can compare them against each other. But I would say ultimately, you just need one. You need one company to see the value in you, for you to see the value in that company, and for you to feel that this is a match for you. And as you focus on that one, I think it'll help, or at least that approach helped me as I was looking for a role when I was transitioning, because there are going to be a lot of opportunities out there just in general. And there's going to be a lot of job interviews that you go through, and some you may get, some you may not, right? But at the end of the day, you just need that one in order to make that final decision.
Thank you both. I mean, we got a lot today. Some of my notes, know your why, intellectual humility, find a role in tech that matches up with your current skill set. What is the mission? What does the mission the company have, and what values that align with yours, your mission? Look up Yahoo Finance when you're looking up the company, quarter by quarter, press releases. Check the About Us page, check cover breaks, type in the company name, hit layoffs. There's so many things that we were blessed with today, and including those final nuggets. And so this is going to conclude the formal part of this. In a moment, you're going to go to breakout groups. Like I said, if you haven't done so, please put your LinkedIn information in the chat box in the breakout group as well. And in case anyone has to leave, we want to thank you. We want to thank you both for being fantastic and authentic speakers. Appreciate you both, man. We want to thank corporate partners Invitae and Chime for helping making this event happen. And I also want to invite you to our next event, which will be taking place on September 20th. It's non-traditionally trained engineers in tech. I'll put the link in the chat now, but please register for this event. We'd love to have you. And again, we are here to help. We're here to try to get folks roles in these tech companies. And so keep coming back. And I think that at this point, again, thank you. And Maisha is going to push us to the breakout rooms.
Marco Polo. How long do you leave the room?